All right, I'm gonna start off with Lifecycle. Before I do that, some housekeeping. I am using Night Lapse by Astral Throb, and not sure if I can or can't, but it doesn't really matter to me. As far as I don't want to take your music either, but I appreciate it. Anyway, going to be talking about Lifecycle and state and Lifecycle on the reactJS docs page. This is where I'm stuck at. I can build a component, I can render things, but I still don't understand the lifecycle, so this is where I'm going to be. If you need any help, feel free to ask questions, and if I need some help, hopefully somebody will join and help me out with that. But I'm gonna move on, and we're good to go. I wanted to test something real quick. Still not working, eh? Not sure why, but it should. You know what though? It's not even really connected. We'll look at this just real quick. Done. Mad that it's not working. But hey guys, a couple of my students. All right. Let me see here. Well, I could get this to work, but it's not working. Oh, that's why you can't see it. There it is. I wonder how long I got it up there. General settings, moderator tool source, general settings. Is it gone or still there? No, it's gone. Okay. All right. Gonna go ahead and get started with reactJS state and lifecycle. I have my notes here. I'll keep it here for now. Actually, I'll put it over here. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay. So I started doing this last time, but it wasn't really working with the sound and everything. I think I got it good now. I think the sound's good now. I even was able to remove some of the background noise in my house because I'm kind of in an echoey room. But we'll get started here. Okay, so state and lifecycle from reactJS. This page introduces the concept of state and lifecycle in a React component. You can find a detailed component API reference here. We're not going to do that. We're going to continue reading. But a lot of times what I like to do is create like a vocabulary section. And so vocabulary, that way I can always have something to reference to. And the first word is state, second word is life cycle. Let's see what's through this. A little nervous, I guess. The particular condition that something or something is in a specific time and nation and territory. Definitely not this one, it's probably this one. So I'm going to copy and paste it. And then life cycle. I kind of want to add two definitions, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. So sometimes all I like to do is ask, but you know what, let's check out Sideways Dictionary. It's the app that I use. Let's see if this works. State. No, it didn't work on that one. Let's see about Lifecycle. Okay, it was in suggested. Okay, let's look at Lifecycle. The series of changes in the life of an organism, including reproduction. So here I'm going to put that one. And now I'm going to do state. What is state in programming? The contents of these memory locations at any given point in the program's execution is called the program state. Contents of these memory locations at any given point in the program's execution is called the program state. Imperative programming is a programming paradigm way of designing a programming language that describes computation in the terms of the program state and of the statements which change the program state. Okay. State, computer science, the contents of these memory locations. We already said that. Well, you know what? Let's narrow it down. Let's make it more focused. React controls the data flow in the components with state and props. The data in state and props are used to render the component with dynamic data. By this, in JavaScript, reactJS, state and props, reactJS is component based. Doesn't really help. Let me say this. React component is an independent, reusable code, and it contains HTML plus JavaScript. Components data will be stored in the component's state. This state can be modified based on user action or other action. When a component state is changed, React will re-render the component to the browser. I'm starting to get an idea of it. I'm thinking that it's part of like how it is at the very moment that you're either going to do something to it or in the state that it's currently in. Maybe this will help. Oh yeah, what is the difference between state and props? Props, short for properties, and state are both plain JavaScript objects. Ooh, that's a big one there. I'm gonna add that in there. While both hold information that influences the output of render, they are different in one important way. Props get passed to the component, similar to function parameters, whereas state is managed within the component, similar to variables declared with a function. Oh, I just realized they're underlined. This kind of sounds like a Stranger Things song. Okay, so I like what it says here. State is managed within the component, similar to variables declared within a function. So if I were to do a JS fiddle on this, sorry for snorting. If I close this out and I put function, let's say add, or let's do some, and we pass in one parameter, right? We can show that return, actually let's alert it just so we can see it. A plus, well, let's do multiplication tables. 3, we should get a multiple of 3, right? So we'll try it out some. We're gonna pass in 2, we should get 6 back. Let's run it. And nothing alerted. Huh. Oh, come on. Sorry. Run it, and then we get 6 right here. And then if we put here 4, run it, 12. Now let's show what React was saying here. if you do a var number equals 4, and then we pass in num, and we run it, you get 12 because 4 equals num, or num equals 4. We pass in num, then we're passing in num here, and it becomes a, and then a times 3 would give you, or 4 times 3 would give you 4. Now, I cannot change what's inside, so we're gonna say def num, which would mean def number, a most definite number, and we're gonna make it 3, right? And we're gonna pass it here, def num, and then run it, and you should still get 12 because now we're putting 3 here, and we're putting num here 4. So let's go back and read what it said here. It says, oh no, let's go back to my notes, right? It says state are both plain JavaScript objects. We're not doing any objects here, but still, well, technically function is an object, but that's something else. State is managed within the component, similar to variables declared within a function. So that means that we're in a function. Now, if I were to change def num here, var equals def num, right? I'm gonna change it to a 5. And we try to put it in here. We're trying to do the same thing, but it should run the same way. We still get a 12. So 5 times 4 would give us 20, but instead we're getting 4 times 3 still, because we're not allowed to go inside the function. You see? And so that's good. It's a good quick clarification on what that means. State is managed within the component, similar to variables declared within a function. So what I need to keep in mind is that inside of this component, I'm going to manage, the variables of the component, I guess. Let me go back and reread it, make sure I know what I'm talking about. Let me see here. State is managed within the component, similar to variables declared within a function. So state is going to be managed inside the component. Okay. Let's keep going. Hey, Valeria. Another regular. I think we're good here. Just reading on use of props and state. Why it says that, we'll go back to Lifecycle and state. So now let's talk about Lifecycle. And I think Lifecycle is pretty self-explanatory. A lifecycle is basically a series of changes, and we're going to go ahead and take out the life of an organism, or maybe we can do this: in the life of a component. What do you think? I think that's good. Hey, Valeria, check this out. Hopefully I do get some subscribers. Alright, so now we're going to move on from we'll leave that there and then bring that down. I should put the little parentheses there. Alright, let's keep going. Consider the tick-tocking clock example from one of the previous sections. In rendering elements, we have only learned one way to update the UI. We call reactDOM.render to change the rendered output, because we push the props in there.
I saw the live stream notification.
You did? You liked it?
I never see it, but I'm not.
Okay. Consider the ticking clock example from one of the previous sections. In rendering elements, we have only learned one way to update the UI. So we call reactDOM.render I will. He's watching right now, though. You can see the chat, I think. We call react dot render to change the rendered output. This is where we call react dot render. We call this element inside the function, and then we pass in where we want to render it, and it gets rendered. And here we set an interval, and for every second this thing ticks. Okay. And then it says try it in CodePen. We're not going to do that. You know what's going to happen. In this section, we will learn how to make the clock component truly reusable and encapsulated. So let's, you know what, I'm going to make a note of that. We'll take this off. Well, actually, you know what, let's do it here. And encapsulated. All right, and what I'm going to do here is make some more. Yeah, but then it eventually gets more difficult, so be ready for that, right? Well, that's cool. Yeah, I remember teaching you guys about elements, right? Let's see. Yeah. We're going to do reusable. I like this Stranger Things music. Valeria, can you hear the music? It sounds like Stranger Things to me. All right, see you later. Encapsulation is one of the fundamental concepts in object-oriented programming. It describes the idea of bundling data and methods that work on that data within one unit. This concept is also often used to hide the internal representation or state of an object from the outside. I think I like that. In this section, we'll learn how to make the clock component truly reusable and encapsulate it. It will set up its own timer and update itself every second. Set up its own timer and update itself every second. We can start by encapsulating how the clock looks. It's just a little bit too loud. Hopefully it's a little bit lower. Set its own timer and update itself every second. We can start by encapsulating how the clock looks. So if we look at here, compare the two. Well, I actually have it already cut and pasted. So let's see what the encapsulation entails. So we actually just removed the clock, turn that into a function, and then remove the call to the render into another function. So now we're gonna make it tick. We're gonna make the clock tick. So I'm assuming we're probably gonna call this in here, but I'm not sure. Let's keep going. In this section, we will learn how to make the clock component truly reusable and encapsulated. It will set up its own timer and update it every second. We can start by encapsulating how the clock looks. However, it misses a crucial requirement. The fact that the clock sets up a timer and updates the UI every second should be an implementation detail of the clock. The fact that the clock sets up a timer and updates the UI every second should be an implementation detail of the clock. Really, we want to write this once and have the clock update itself. So we need to add a state to the clock component. State is similar to props, but it is private and fully controlled by the component. So I really want to write this once and have the clock update itself. Okay, state is similar to props, but it is private and fully controlled by the component. And I guess going here, going private, we're gonna talk over here. We're gonna write over here where it says encapsulated. We can put private, right? Okay, I think we're on to something here. Excuse me, it's been a long day. Converting a function to a class. You can convert a function component like clock to a class in 5 steps. Create an ES6 class with the same name that extends react.component. Add a single empty method to call it render. Add a single empty method to it and add a single empty method to it called render. Move the body of the function into the rendered method. Replace props with this.props in the render body. Delete the remaining empty function declaration. Okay. So here, code. Open my code, go to cast it. Nope. So Let me make a React app real quick because I don't know if I have one yet. Create React app. I'm gonna call this one Casted. Working title. You know what? Let me, before I do that, cd into portfolio. Casted in there? Nope. Okay. npx create React app casted. Fingers crossed. We should have a folder here in portfolio. This is casted. There it is. ¿Qué pasa, Julián? Any questions while we're waiting? I must be really sleepy. Hopefully I don't stay up late tonight. I guess I should be reading this. This is going to be the folder, the directory for the app. Node modules, package.json, get ignore, public, favicon, index, manifest.json, source, app, index, logo, and service worker. I don't know what that means, but we'll take a look at it. npm start or yarn start runs the app in development mode. This page will automatically reload. If you make changes to the code, you will see build errors and warnings in the console. Runs the test watcher in interactive mode. Let's go to the documentation. You don't need to learn and configure many build tools. Instant reloads help your focus on development when it's time to deploy. Oh, honestly, didn't think it would take this long, but it's fine. no biggie. Well, I can keep reading too, right? Let's keep going. You can convert a function component like clock to a class in 5 steps. There we go. I'm gonna cd into, actually, I'm gonna open folder, storage, web development, portfolio, cast it, select folder, and then we're going to start, make sure it's working. Should open up here. Should have a React logo. And there we go, we have an app. Okay. I need to stop yawning, guys. Somebody say something, wake me up. Alright, so we're gonna create a class for building this clock. No count, time, string. What's going on here? I think this is what's missing. Now it's not giving me any errors here. Alright. So then in index.js there has to be something there. Let me see. Alright. Okay. I'm going to import clock from yeah, I know clock is missing. Just give me a second, I need to rename it. Hey guys, is the music too loud? What do you mean? Cannot find file. Clock.js does not match the corresponding name on disk. But I changed it. Let me see. Yeah, it worked now. Chum. Yeah, I haven't used it yet. Okay, cool. So also let me do this. I run our clock. Oh, okay, I know what's going on. Okay, so let's keep going here. We've got a building so far. Clock is now defined as a class rather than a function. We got that. The render method will be called each time an update happens. But as long as we render clock into the same DOM node, only a single instance of the clock class will be used. This lets us use additional features such as local state and lifecycle methods. Word to all my students, reread that. The render method will be called each time an update happens. But as long as we render clock into the same DOM node, only a single instance of the clock class will be used. This lets us use additional features such as local state and lifecycle methods. Okay. So essentially what it's saying is we will render one clock, but we can always change the clock. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Okay. Adding local state to a class. We will move the date. And well, I guess, okay. You know what? Local state. Let's add that to the list of definitions there. table, insert below, local state. And then here we're gonna say local state only available in the class. And what I mean by that is we need to add it locally here, not outside of the class. Let's keep going there. Add a class constructor that assigns the initial this.state. So the constructor is going to be the one to say, hey, you need to add something, or you need to start with something. So constructor function class constructor function will set the initial state. Constructor does exactly what it says, it constructs it. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and copy and paste. So we're gonna add this constructor to the, don't need you anymore. Don't need you anymore. I need you. Alright, gonna get rid of this. And right here in the class, we're going to add a constructor. Julian, are you still in there? Constructor. We're gonna pass in the props. Oh, did you notice that? So when you make a component, you add the props to the call, if I'm not mistaken, and then, okay. So here, we pass in the props, and this dot state equals date. We're making an object with a new date. Uh-oh. I remember that. I totally remember that. Okay, so super proppers. Let's check our app. Not yet. Let me try this though before I say no. Okay, so it's a local string undefined. Huh. Let's open up, not index. Well, let's see what it says here. Let's go to app.js. No, index.js. Apparently it's still not working, so we're just gonna keep going. So tired. Cannot read property to local stream of undefined. It's still saying that the clock is not defined yet. So maybe that's what it is. Let's keep going. This, oh, big mistake, Mr. Barone. Did you see that? See, I put this props. But here, I didn't do this. We will move the date from the props to state in 3 steps. Replace this dot props dot date with this dot state dot date. So here, let's see if it worked. Oh, it did something. At least we know it's working. I'm not doing it quite yet. Well, inside the index.html, here's the body. Maybe inside the root, we can write a div.clock. And then attach clock to it using this. And just because I want to do this, alert, just to see if it's working. Okay, so we got an alert. Let's inspect it just to double check. So we have app here, and inside the app we have app header, but we don't have the clock. Why not? That kind of stinks. Maybe we need to keep going. Just keep going. We set this dot state. Now, note how we pass props to the base constructor. Class component should always call the base constructor with props. Remove the date prop from the clock element. I don't think I did it though. Yeah, I didn't put it there. So we will later add the timer code back to the component itself. This is the result. So let's look at what mine looks like versus what this one looks like. Okay, that the clock extends react.component, constructed props, super props, this dot state, date new date, render, return, div, hello world, it is this dot state dot date to locale. Make sure there's not a spelling error. Paste. Just leave it like that. And then I mean, everything looks good. Let's try doing it on the root level. Now let's try to get rid of the app call. Look, there's my stuff. Oh, it's only 6:27:32 p.m. You like that, Julian? I need to know why they wouldn't let me call both though. That's kind of not cool. But, oh, check this out. Check this out. I know what to do now. All right, so we're not going to call it here. We're going to call it in the app.js. Now, the only thing is I don't know if I have to, well, okay, let's try it here. We'll call it after the app. Import clock from all right, and then I'm going to use it here. Hey! Hey! So I can call anything I want inside that thing there. That's so cool. All right, so the only problem is that clock is not working. It needs to be updating on its own. So let's see, this is the part where I get lost. But I totally understand it now though. I created a class function. A class function that has constructor. You pass on the props. You make a super constructor and pass on the props. Let me make sure I know what I'm talking about. Super. Oh, I'm not gonna write that. We're going to say notice. Yeah. Note how we pass props to the base constructor. Class components should always call the base constructor with props. Remove the, super is, constructor. Then you here. Okay. And then, so I think this takes care of all the initial part, and then this takes care of all the view, which you see. So let's keep going. Remove the date prop from the clock element. We did that already. Result looks like this. We look like that. Next, we'll make the clock set up its own timer and update itself every second. So clock has to do it itself. It's got to be inside the clock. So this is where I got tripped up here. Adding Lifecycle's method to a class. Adding Lifecycles to a class. And right over here, I'm going to make a new one. Life cycle methods. And what are life cycle methods? In applications with many components, it's very important to free up resources taken by the components when they are destroyed. In applications with many components, it's very important to free up resources taken by the components when they are destroyed. Okay? We want to set up a timer whenever the clock is rendered to the DOM for the first time. This is called mounting in React. Clock is rendered to the DOM for the first time. We want to set up a timer whenever the clock is rendered to the DOM for the first time. This is called mounting in React. This is where I get confused, but let's write down our confusion. Oh. Mounting. This is called mounting in React. We want to set up a timer whenever the clock is rendered to the DOM for the first time. Oh, okay. Isn't that kind of like setting the state? Let me keep reading. We also want to clear that timer whenever the DOM produced by the clock is removed. This is called unmounting. Okay, so we have mounting and unmounting. I'm gonna go ahead and write that in. So it sounds like to me is like we're gonna do something with that. We're gonna set something up that's gonna do something to that component, to the clock, and something that's gonna remove the timer, so we can free up resources. So we can declare special methods on the component class to run some code when a component mounts and unmounts, and it's gonna be these two. I'm gonna write, just for now, I'm gonna write this down. Component will did unmount, no, did mount, and then component. Okay. These methods are called lifecycle methods. The component did mount method runs after the component output has been rendered. It says the component did mount runs after the component output has been rendered to the DOM. This is a good place to set up a timer. Runs after the component output has been rendered to the DOM. This is a good place to set up a timer. Okay, so happens when the render function is executed. Right? Okay. And then, so here we're gonna run this, but just to test though, I want to test something out. So we're gonna go here, and I'm assuming that this is outside of the constructor. Yes, it's right here. So let's just test something out here. Component, oh look, they're already here, check it out. So this must be React stuff. See, one of the things that confused me was that I thought component did mount was like an arbitrary name for a method, but it's not. So did mount, right? Yeah, did mount. And we're gonna run. We're not gonna pass anything in. Oh. And we're just gonna alert mounted. And then component will unmount alert mounted, and it didn't unmount. And that's because if we look at our definitions, is that unmounting will unmount. And then it has that word will in it. It kind of makes it seem like it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened. Right? So maybe when React sends a message to the component, it does something. Let's keep going with that. All right, so we know that this is gonna work no matter what, no matter, you know. Oh, you know what? Let's do something just real quick. Just to test it. We're gonna put some JavaScript in there, and we're gonna put alert. Almost finished, almost rendered. Almost rendered, mounted. Whoa, totally get it now. Mounted. You know what? I should just leave it in there just for the sake of showing people. All right. So now let's look. We're going to component did mount, and we're going to this timer ID equals set interval, and we're going to, when we set the interval, so timer ID is something we're putting together, and we know that because it's this time. This is timer's ID, so it's the clock's timer ID. And now inside we're going to set the interval. I'm going to put in a pet arrow function. This dot tick, and we're going to do it every 1,000 milliseconds for 1 second. Something went wrong. Oh, that's right. It's inside of the parameters. Boom. So let's see if it's doing anything. Oh, this tick is not a function, meaning that there is no ticking going on inside this class. So let's keep going. We're going to keep going because I know it's going to pop up later. Note how we save the timer ID right on this.timer ID. While this.props is set up by React itself, this.state has a special meaning. I kind of lost myself, I'm sorry. Sometimes I do that, thinking about something while I'm reading. Note how we save the timer ID right on this.timer ID. Yeah, that is kind of weird. I just know that it's a method. Okay. While this.props is set up by React itself, and this.state has a special meaning, you are free to add additional fields to the class manually if you need to store something that doesn't participate in the data flow, like a timer ID. We will tear down the timer, and the component will unmount. Lifecycle method. So let's do here clear interval. This timer ID, and we're going to save it. And let's see if it does anything. See, this.tick is still not a function. Oh, it's making a bunch of them because it's ticking every 1 second. See? Should kind of go with that. Okay, we'll leave it alone. Okay, finally, we will implement a method called tick at the clock component. That the clock component will run every second. It will use this.setState to schedule updates to the component local state. I should say, as a grammar teacher, I should say components, in my opinion, just saying. So this.setState, parentheses, to schedule updates to the component's local state. And we're just going to put that here. So this is actually a method of the clock, while this, I believe, is a method of React. Fingers crossed. So let's set the tick. Not gonna pass anything into it. This.setState is that. And then we're going to pass in an object, date, new state. And it should work. Look. So it's set in the state. Cool. We have a clock. I'm gonna go ahead and take out almost render just so you can see that it's working the clock on its own. So oh. Why aren't you working? There you go. We got a functioning clock, y'all. Okay. So just kind of curious. Oh, so the render is being called every time we set the state. So let's kind of review because I don't want to get lost. So when it's mounted, we want to timer ID it equals set interval at 1 second. And then we're going to clear the interval. This is set interval something a part of? Let me see something real quick. Is that a function from React? Okay, so that's JavaScript. So JavaScript already knows what to do with that. So let's not take. Oh, it's okay. So this function is acting this out every second. So what's happening is when it's finished mounting, or when it's finished rendering, is going to call this function, this dot timer ID, and it's going to do it. What does clear interval do? I mean, I know what it sounds like, but I guess it just does that. Oh man, good luck to you, Claudia. I got a cousin going to Spain for a month. Oh, that's funny. What do we do now? I'm assuming that we set state. This is the method. This dot state will be run. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute this here. And then, so tick is running this. But I don't know. Oh, but it hasn't been unmounted then. So this is just there. Right? So let's keep going. Now, the clock ticks every second. Let's quickly recap what's going on and the order in which the methods are called. When clock is passed to react DOM.render, the React calls the constructor of the clock component. Since clock needs to display current time, it initializes this state with an object including the current time, which is this right here. This.state, okay? With an object including current time, we will later update this state. React then calls the clock component's render method. This is how React learns what should be displayed on the screen. React then updates the DOM to match the clock's render output. Let me think here for a second. It's saying React calls the constructor of the clock component. Since clock needs to display the current time, initializes this state, which would be right here, right? And it says React then calls the clock component's render method, which is down here. I think that's just a process that React component goes in. And then here we go, we keep going. When the React then calls the clock component's render method, this is how React learns what should be displayed on the screen. React then updates the DOM to match the clock's render output. When the clock output is inserted in the DOM, React calls the component didMount here. Lifecycle method. Inside it, the clock component asks the browser to set up a timer to call the component's tick method once a second here. This timer method. Let me just try to see if this is arbitrary. Instead of timer ID, I'm gonna put Julian and see if it works. And it's still working. So this can be arbitrary. Check it out, we're still good. All right. And then here, every second the browser calls the tick method inside it. The clock component schedules a UI update by calling setState. Every second the browser calls the tick method inside it. The clock component schedules a UI update by calling setState. Every second the browser calls the tick method here. Right? Oh, okay, I see what's going on. So every time it calls the tick method here, every 1 second, it's running this code here. This dot set state date equals new date every second. Okay? And then it says call React knows the state has changed and calls the render method again here to learn what should be on the screen. This time, this dot state dot date in the render method will be different. And so the render output will include the updated time. React updates the DOM accordingly. This time, this dot state dot date in the render method will be different. The render output, the updated time. React updates the DOM accordingly. Okay. If the clock component is ever removed from the DOM, React calls the component will unmount this.state.comment hello. This.setState comment hello. Okay. So here we initialize the state. Oh, you know what? Let's test it. Why not? why'd you work there? Maybe it needs to be in it. Oh, because this is a, okay. I think I know what's up here. Just give me a second. Oh, okay. Okay. Text. And here, the time is now. There we go. And so now let's do this. This dot tick is also going to, oh, well, let's make our own method, right? Change text. Change text. And then we're going to say this dot set state. Run that. The time is now. Son las. Let's do Spanish. Son las. Oh, I haven't put it in there. Sorry. So let's do this. This dot timer dot set interval. This dot tick. Yes! Cool. I'm really starting to get it now. Okay. So we can change the state that way. It'll start out this way, and then it'll change to whatever I put here. I kind of want to do an input, but I'm kind of scared to do it. But really, I got to start in this deal here, but I think I got a really good hand on it, man. State updates may be asynchronous. Yeah, I think this is a good ending point right here, because this is going to be a whole nother bag of worms. Yeah, it's going to be an ending point. So tomorrow, or probably going to be Thursday, but tomorrow we'll do here state updates may be asynchronous. React may batch multiple set state calls into a single update for performance. All right, I'm done, guys. I appreciate you watching. Anybody that came by, even though it's mostly my students, but I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.